Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the From the Sideline podcast with Francis.
And Peter, and today we'll be discussing our overreactions from week 3, our hot takes for week 4, and then finally the Damian Lillard trade that just happened.
Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to follow, listen to our other episodes, and stay for more. Let's get right into it. So, first off, we're going to start off with our week 3 recap and some overreactions. So, Peter, what's your overreaction from week 3?
My overreaction from week 3 is that the Cowboys are not a lock for the NFC East. I mean, I don't even think they're a top 16 in the NFC. I mean, losing to the Cardinals by 2 scores, 28-16, that's just insane. And their schedule so far has been very easy. They played the Jets without Aaron Rodgers, and they beat them by 20 points. And, of course, they beat the Cowboys of course, they beat the Giants by 40 in week 1, like we talked about. I really thought they were going to just cruise after that. But the Cardinals this week, they just schooled them. Getting beat by a team that bad with Joshua Dobbs as your starting quarterback is just absolutely insane. And I don't see a team that's losing to the Cardinals producing sustainably and making a run in the playoffs or even making the playoffs, because if you're losing to bad quarterbacks like that, when you get to really good quarterbacks in the playoffs, what are you going to do? You can't do anything. What about you, Francis? What's your overreaction for week 3?
I'm going to talk about our team, the Seahawks. So, the Seahawks beat a pretty bad Panthers team without their starting quarterback, number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young. They had Andy Dalton playing. I mean, he is a veteran and has had success, but we all know he's washed and not a very good quarterback anymore. But the Seahawks did beat them pretty convincingly, but only towards the end did it really become more of a blowout, you could say. But my overreaction is that the Seahawks are a top 3 team in the NFC. And yeah, I know coming into the season, this was already kind of predicted, but a loss to the Rams week 1, which the Rams were predicted to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL. So losing to them was a huge loss. And then barely beating the Lions, and then not barely beating the Panthers, but it was closer than it should have been. So yeah, they haven't looked great this season, but I still think they're a top 3 team based on their offensive weapons, based on their offensive production. Kenneth Walker is special, man. He's a top 10 running back in the NFL for sure. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. It's gotta be the best wide receiver core in the NFL. I'm sorry. I mean, I know the Dolphins are there, but I think the Seahawks for sure is the best wide receiver core in the NFL. And then Geno Smith, a very much above average quarterback, I would say top 10. And our defense is young, dealing with a lot of injuries right now, but it's improving, and it has gotten better this season. And it's been playing well for how many injuries we've dealt with this season so far, like Jamal Adams, Tariq Woolen, Kobe Bryant, all of that. So yeah, I think the Seahawks are a top 3 NFC team behind the 49ers and Eagles.
I agree somewhat, Francis. I wouldn't say they're top 3. I'd say they're definitely top 5. But I do disagree with how you said they're the best receiver core in the league. I used to think that, but they really haven't been utilizing Jackson Smith and Jigba at all. They've been throwing it to Jake Bobo, who ran a 4.99 40. So they're really not utilizing their weapons well, their first-round pick. So I'd say right now they definitely don't have the best receiver core. I'm still going to say the Bengals. But I do agree that their defense has been super solid. Devin Witherspoon has looked great as a rookie. He's looked great as a 5th overall pick. It's looked like they've made a great decision on picking him over Jalen Carter. And Jamal Adams hasn't really played a ton, but we all know how good of a player he is and how well he can do. So I feel like I do agree with that take on the defense, but I would probably hold my horses on the wide receiver pick just for now.
Well, I mean, I agree that they should utilize Smith and Jigba more, but I trust in Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, and I think probably he's not ready yet, or I don't know. He obviously has done something to not get as many targets as he should, and coming in as the unanimous best wide receiver in this draft class, you'd expect him to be utilized way more, but I mean, when you have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to throw to as well, you're not going to throw it to him as much, especially as a rookie. But yeah, I think they should utilize him more. But I mean, I still think they are the best wide receiver core. Jamar Chase hasn't looked too strong. T. Higgins has not looked too strong. Tyler Boyd looks pretty old. And then the Dolphins, it's a conversation.
Speaking of the Dolphins, I mean, we have to talk about that game in Week 3 from them, winning 70-20 against the Denver Broncos. Devon Achan, as he wants it to be pronounced, I think he had 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so did Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert and Devon Achan had 3 touchdowns each. And they each, I mean, this isn't a fantasy podcast, but Raheem Mostert had 45 fantasy points and Devon Achan had 51. Yeah. So if you know anything about fantasy, you know that's an absolutely absurd amount, especially for 2 running backs on the same team. Their running back room and their whole team and their team as a whole is so fast, and their weapons just torch that Denver defense. I think we all saw that interview from the Denver offensive lineman after the game. They were not happy. They looked horrible. But I don't think that was completely just Denver being a bad team. Miami is a super good team. Tua looked great. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of him, he looked great. He's been great this whole season. And Miami's a really good team. They're definitely, I'd say, they're the front runner for the AFC East right now over the Buffalo Bills.
I mean, Peter's saying they're the front runners for the AFC East, but I think they're the front runners for the NFL right now. I don't know how you could disagree with that statement right now. Like, you could say they're just an explosive offense. Tua Tagovailoa is an average quarterback or whatnot. Their defense is like above average slightly, but what team is putting up 70 points? Like, no other team is putting up 70 points against the Denver Broncos, who by any means aren't even a bad defense. So putting up 70 points against not even a bad defense in the NFL is insane. I don't think the Chiefs are putting up 70 points. I don't think the Bills, I don't think the Bengals, I don't think any of these teams are putting up 70 points up against the Broncos defense. You can't deny that the Dolphins have the best offense in the NFL right now, the fastest offense in the NFL. Raheem Mostert, Devon Achan, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle are all like basically the fastest at their positions. So that's insane to think about. Tua, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and he's been slinging it currently. I mean, it's pretty hard to not hit your passes when you have those type of weapons to throw to. And then, their defense, man, is looking really good. Javon Holland has looked great. All their defensive players have looked really good right now. So I don't really see how you can debate that they're not the best team in the NFL right now. All right, we're going to move on to our game. I know we missed the last week episode, but that's our fault. But so basically we started a game last episode where it's a prediction game. We pick one lock that we think is going to win and 2 underdogs. So the scoring currently is I went 3-0 and Peter went 2-1 with one of his underdogs losing. So it's 1 point if your lock wins, 2 points if your underdog wins, and then you lose 3 points if your lock loses, and you lose 1 point if your underdog loses. So, actually, I think it was you lose nothing if you're under. No, you lose 1 point. Okay, so I got 3-0. So let's do the math really quick. I got 1 point. Huh?
It was nothing.
It was nothing. Yeah. So I have 5 points, and then Peter has 4. Wait. No, you have 3. So I have 5 points and Peter has 3 points. So Peter's going to start us off with his picks here. So who's your lock?
My lock is the Chiefs over the Jets. I mean, I think this one's pretty obvious. The Jets, they don't have Aaron Rodgers. They have Zach Wilson at quarterback. And the Chiefs are bound to bounce back. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce with Taylor Swift. He's motivated. This is an easy win for the Chiefs here. There's no question about it. Then for upsets, first upset, I got the Dolphins over the Bills. To be honest, I don't know how the Dolphins aren't favored in this one after their performance. I think they're going to stay hot and they're just going to cruise through the Bills on week 4. The Bills are a great team, as we all know, but Tua has been super accurate as of late, and that running game has really bursted onto the scene. So this is an easy win for the Dolphins here. I think they'll win by double-digit points, definitely. And then for my last upset, I have the Patriots over the Dallas Cowboys. As I was talking about earlier, Dallas has looked horrible. Even though they looked good week 1 of course, with that 40-point win, their defense looked great. But giving up 28 points to the Arizona Cardinals, the Patriots are a way better offense, and I think they'll do better than that, but their defense will hold Dallas to less. So I'm going to get the Patriots over the Cowboys in that one. What do you think, Francis? What are your locks and upsets?
All right. So my lock is going to be the Eagles over the Commanders. I know it's kind of an easy pick here, but Peter got I feel like an even easier one with the Chiefs over the Jets. So we're going to go Eagles over the Commanders with a blowout win. Sam Howell is not that guy. The Commanders' defense cannot hold the Eagles' offense. Their offensive line. I know the Commanders have a pretty good front seven, but the Eagles' offensive line is even better than that. Offensive weapons, Jalen Hurts, and even their defense. Outstanding. Even Jalen Carter looks amazing. So Eagles over the Commanders pretty substantially. So my first underdog is going to be the Texans over the Steelers. C.J. Stroud and Tank Dell seem to really have this connection. Tank Dell has been one of the better receivers in the NFL so far going into Week 4. The Steelers have looked like the worst team in the NFL. Pretty much the worst team in the NFL. The Bears and Broncos, yeah, they've been bad, but the Steelers are terrible. Terrible. Kenny Pickett's terrible. Their whole offense is terrible besides George Pickens, and their defense is not great. I really like the Texans offense. I'm really a fan of C.J. Stroud. Really a fan of Tank Dell. I think it's a really fun team to watch. Even Will Anderson has been spectacular. And the Steelers just have not wowed me at all in any way. And then my third team is going to be the Saints over the Buccaneers. I really like the Buccaneers. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he was the number one pick for a reason. I don't think he was a bust for the Browns. Brought them to the AFC Championship. And after the year after they won the AFC Championship, I really thought he was going to go to the Super Bowl and maybe even win it. The Browns looked really good. OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield. They looked really good. But Mike Evans has been amazing. Chris Godwin's been meh. And then their running back play is pretty bad. Their defense is all right, I guess. But the Saints defense has been phenomenal. The Saints defense is one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL. And Baker Mayfield's not going to be able to handle it. And, yeah, I know the Saints offense isn't the greatest, but I think their defense is going to win this game for them. Jameis Winston, don't know how I feel about him. But he was also the number one pick for a reason, so I think he's going to do good things. Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed even, their wide receiver core is great. And also Alvin Kamara comes back this week. So with Alvin Kamara coming back this week, and I still think he's a top 10 running back in the NFL, I think their offense can really do good things against this Buccaneers defense. So I got the Saints over the Buccaneers in a 3-point spread. All right, finally, we're moving on to NBA. Sad news for the Trailblazers fans, but it was inevitable. It had to happen at some point. So Damian Lillard has left to the Milwaukee Bucks. So Peter, my question for you is, in this 3-team trade, who won?
It's pretty obvious, but I do think it was a good trade for all teams. Besides the Phoenix Suns, but for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Portland Trailblazers, I feel like they each got what they needed. The Bucks needed another superstar. Obviously, they got that with Dame. There's not really much to say there other than that he's top 2 point guard in the league, top 3. He's going to skyrocket their offense. They're going to be top 3 offenses in the league next season easily. Dame, as a compliment to Giannis, is absolutely insane. But on the Portland Trailblazers side, I think getting DeAndre Ayton's a great move. They gave up Yusuf Nurkic. They traded him to the Suns. But Ayton is a great center, and now he's finally somewhere where he actually wants to play. He did not like it in Phoenix, but he's going to do great in Portland. He's going to have a bigger role, and this is the start of a rebuild era for them. But it had to happen. They weren't going anywhere with their current team. So I think this was a great move for them. They also got Drew Holiday, who's one of the best defensive players, one of the best defensive guards in the entire league, and he has been for some time now. But he is aging, so he doesn't really fit with the timeline of the rebuild that much, but I think it's fine. This is still a great trade for the Blazers, and the Bucks obviously got exactly what they needed. But as for the Suns, this isn't a very good trade for them. I don't see how they benefited at all. they only got Yusuf Nurkic, and I'm forgetting, but there's a few other names and a few other picks. But giving up a stud like DeAndre Ayton, I know he didn't want to be there, but you would expect a little more from that. What do you think about this trade, Francis?
Well, yeah, I just want to start off by saying the Phoenix Suns definitely lost this trade. So they had to get rid of DeAndre Ayton for cap space, I know that, and whatnot. But yeah, former number one overall pick turning into Yusuf Nurkic and some role players, bench players, and a few spare picks is not really going to cut it. But Yusuf Nurkic is probably... It's hard to say this as a Trailblazers fan, but he's probably one of the worst starting centers in the NBA. So getting his return from DeAndre Ayton, former number one overall pick, is not great. So the Suns definitely lost this trade, but they had to get rid of DeAndre Ayton one way or another. But I bet Suns fans aren't really happy with the way they did it. But I think for sure the Bucks won this trade. The Bucks for sure won this trade. When Peter actually broke me the news of this trade during lunchtime, and I was really happy for the Blazers. As a Blazers fan, I was happy. I was excited for what the new season was going to look like. Our starting lineup looks pretty good. Anthony Simons, Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson, Jeremy Grant, and DeAndre Ayton. It's a pretty solid starting lineup in the NBA. But the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. Because really I wanted more younger players. We got rid of Nazir Little and Keon Johnson, who... Nazir Little has been really good for us. I mean, we hold on to some young players like Jabari Walker's been looking promising, Trendon Watford, some of those guys. But when you trade a superstar away like Damian Lillard, you really expect more like young players to set us up for the future better, because Damian Lillard is pretty old. He's like 33. But the Bucks, they got a championship out of this trade. They for sure are the front runners in the NBA now, especially in the Eastern Conference for sure. Damian Lillard was the missing piece that they needed. Their starting lineup is amazing. Although their bench is a little lackluster right now, it's still pretty good. I would have hopefully gotten Marjon Beauchamp at least out of that. But I'm excited. DeAndre Ayton, Drew Holiday, the best perimeter defender in the NBA. But there's rumors and stuff. We're probably going to just trade him for younger players eventually anyway. So he's probably not going to stay long. But DeAndre Ayton's still a good piece. But the Bucks for sure won this trade. For sure. So thank you for listening. That's the end of this episode. Make sure you come back for more. Thank you for listening to the full episode.
It was a little bit of a shorter one, but next week we'll come back. We'll play some more games that I know we didn't get to next week. But for now, peace out, guys.